Guys, this is an interesting new mid-ranger from OnePlus. Interesting in its design, interesting in the cameras used, and most importantly, interesting due to the chip that's on the inside. My name's Ash, this is C4E Tech, and today I'm going to take you through what the Nord CE4 has to offer. Let's start with the box contents. First, we have a black insert. This houses a Nord card with a letter from the Nord team. Then we have our regular leaflets and the red cable club card. There's a SIM ejector tool, also a color match soft case. Now let's get to the Nord CE4 itself. I've got this phone in green. On the back here, it looks, we'll talk about that in a bit. Then we have a 100-watt SuperVOOC charger, and finally a typical red OnePlus Type A to Type C cable. OnePlus have gone for a 5500 mAh battery on this, and the claim is using the included 100-watt SuperVOOC charger, you can get to a full charge in under half an hour. Now, despite the CE4 having a 5500 mAh battery, it doesn't feel too heavy or unwieldy, and that's because it isn't. The weight, it's 186 grams, thickness 8.4 millimeters. The back, it slightly curves inwards, making the in-hand feel quite nice. Now don't get me wrong, this is still a pretty boxy phone. Given the display, the sides, they are flat, so it does feel a little too wide, but I'd still say it's comfortable. A high capacity battery, low weight, you know what I'm gonna say. The back, the sides, they're plastic. But I feel the back is pretty well done. OnePlus calls this Celadon marble, and it pops. Very attractive. I like this green. If it is not for you, there's also a shimmery grey option that's a lot more muted, a lot subtle, stealthy, whatever you want to call it. Now, given the CE4's mid-range status, no surprise, there's no alert slider. The power and volume keys, they are present to the right. The secondary mic and speaker along with the IR blaster are located up top. To the bottom, here we have the primary mic, the speaker, and there's also the USB Type-C port and a SIM tray. So here the tray, it's hybrid, so you can either use two SIMs or a SIM and a micro SD card. And I'll leave the 5G band support on screen for you guys to see. Also, here's how the speakers sound. From the front, the Nord CE4, it looks quite neat. The bezels are okay, they look almost symmetric. OnePlus is calling it Fluid AMOLED, so of course 120Hz refresh. Resolution's Full HD+, it's 6.7 inches covered by twice reinforced Panda glass. This is a pretty punchy panel that also happens to be quite bright. In my testing, under manual mode, it output about 600 nits, and under auto went up to 1050 nits. So it should be fine for use outdoors on sunny days. And under low light, there is 2160Hz PWM dimming. Now, OnePlus also markets something called Aqua Touch, which basically means you should be able to use the screen when your hands are wet. Given there's an IP54 rating, a quick notification check in the rain shouldn't be an issue. Okay, let's now get to performance. And guys, this is something that's going to be very important over the next few months, since there are a lot of phones that are going to be launching with these chips. Now, Qualcomm, they have two mid-range chips, very similar sounding mid-range chips, the 7 Gen 3 and the 7 Plus Gen 3, and they are very, very different. Different to the point where one might even call this naming scheme slightly misleading. Slightly. Let me explain. Now, both are 4nm chips, yes, but let's start by looking at the 7 Gen 3. What we are getting here are 4 Cortex A715 cores, with one core being clocked a little higher than the rest. Then we get 4 efficiency cores, the Cortex A510, they clocked at 1.8 GHz. Looking at the 7 Plus Gen 3, here we get an actual prime core, the same one found on the 8 Gen 3, the Cortex X4, though understandably it is clocked a little lower than on the 8 series at 2.8 GHz here. We then have 4 performance cores, A720, clocked at 2.6 GHz, and then 3 efficiency cores, the A520, they're clocked at 1.9 GHz each. For the GPU, we get the Adreno 720 and 732 respectively. No shit, Sherlock. The one with the Plus has better performance. Shut up. Of course it's better, but the difference here, it's way too drastic. If you look at it, we're getting 50% better CPU performance and over 90% better GPU performance. That and the RAM storage differences are what caused the 7 Plus Gen 3 to post 80% higher compound benchmark scores. So what's wrong with higher performance? Nothing really. Now these are gains we don't even see between generations, like 8 Gen 2 to 8 Gen 3, which was very positively received and considered a major upgrade. We got about a 30% boost in CPU, 45% boost in GPU, and overall a 35% boost in compound benchmarks. Now I'm not trashing Qualcomm or OnePlus. All I'm saying is that when you're buying this phone, when you're buying any phone in the next few months, when you're researching, when you're watching review videos, when you're looking up specs, just keep in mind that the 7 Gen 3 and the 7 Plus Gen 3, they are very different chips. They're entirely different beasts. Let me quickly pause for a minute. Guys, if you know YouTube, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the fact that this much talk about numbers and percentages, the algorithm doesn't like it because it leads to a huge drop off in viewers. But knowing that, I still put this in the video because I feel this is something very important and it needs to be conveyed. So if you agree, if you want to show your support, drop this video a like, subscribe, or leave a comment or something. Help the algorithm recommend this video to more people. Anyways, continue. Now, what does all this mean for the Nord CE4? Does this mean this phone is underpowered? Well, actually, no. Confusing naming aside, the 7 Gen 3 is a solid mid-range chip in its own right. Compared to the 782G that we got on the Nord CE3, this is a substantial upgrade. It's paired again with 8 gigs of LPDDR4X RAM, 128 or 256 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage, so it should be fine for not too intense gaming and definitely fine for day-to-day use. The CE4, it also runs cool and has exceptional stability. With software, it's OxygenOS 14 that's built atop Android 14. The new OxygenOS, it feels fast and fluid, it's got some new animations, and the 7 Gen 3 seems to have absolutely no issues keeping up with it. OnePlus is also promising 2 years of Android version updates, 3 years of security patches. Overall, the interface, it felt very snappy, very promising. With that, let's move on to optics. There's a dual camera setup to the back. The primary here is a 50 megapixel Sony Letia Light 600. It's paired with an optically stabilized f1.8 lens. Colors seem on point, like see how the sky is not too blued up, and the greens of the tree, they aren't too punchy either. The wide aperture lets the CE4 shoot shallow depth of field shots like this, and the detail levels, just zooming in, you can see they're pretty good. Low light performance, I'm not gonna call it class leading or anything, because frankly it isn't. But the CE4, it seems quite competent in the night. There is some noticeable vignetting though, like the extra darkness at the corners. For video, this camera can shoot 4K 30 and the footage serviceable. The secondary, it's once again a Sony sensor, but an older one here, the 8 megapixel IMX355. This one's paired with the f2.2 ultra wide, and I have mixed feelings. I mean, it does get the job done, but it doesn't have autofocus, so you can't shoot macros. Now for selfies, there's a 16 megapixel shooter and it's decent. The skin tones seem fine for the most part. The field of view, it's wide and there's a reasonable amount of detail, though I do feel edge detection could be improved. Selfie video sadly is capped to 1080-30. Now the Nord CE4, it starts from 24,999, which if you think about it is actually 2,000 rupees lesser than what the Nord CE3 launched at. So the pricing seems to be competitive, at least on paper, my first impressions. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.